priorities in your team. Hi, I'm Brian Pombo. Welcome back to Brian J. Pombo Live, coming at you every day. Today we're going to be talking about priorities and the importance of this very simple concept to the organization of a team. Whether it be employees, whether it be a group of business owners that work together, whether it be, vendors, partners, anything else, priorities have to be established. Let's get into why that's so important. But first, I want to remind you about brianjpombo.com. Go check out brianjpombo.com. We've got a growing backlog, over 300 videos up there, audios as well. There'll be more and more as time goes on. Right now, we're kind of recovering from this major hacking that happened last month. So we're just now back up and running, getting moving. Going to have the podcast back up and running too. If you're listening to this on the podcast, we're already going strong there. So go back and check out brianjpombo.com. Click on the media section and you'll see everything we have available. So on top of that, we've got the Amazon Proof Strategy Session. If you fear or are kept awake at night from the fear of competition, from the fear of what your competition is doing to you or will do to you in the future, I don't care if that competition's Amazon.com. If you want to Amazon proof yourself, meaning not even Amazon can take you down, you're going to want to sit down with me and have a little chat. And I'm talking 30 to 60 minutes. We're going to have a very clear idea of a game plan of how you can keep from being absolutely steamrolled over by the competition. How can you be competition proof? Go check out the Amazon Proof Strategy Session at brianjpombo.com. That's at brianjpombo.com/Amazon. It's a very special link. You can check it out. That link is in the description below. Now, let's talk about priorities. This is one of those things that, honestly, I don't hear it talked about enough. And I think it's because it's such a simple concept that the people who already understand it thinks that everyone else understands it too. But I can tell you, after being in multiple offices, after being in multiple businesses over time, where oftentimes I work at a distance. So right now we're dealing with the coronavirus and a lot of people are working out of their homes. It's not that big a deal for me because I already work at a distance with most of my clients. Now, on occasion, they'll bring me into their office and be able to kind of see how things run, at least for a temporary period of time. And when I go about doing that, I see the same issue pop up over and over again. There's a couple major issues. One has to do with personalities and just a complete lack of understanding on the leadership's end of how personalities function and allowing people to understand that and talking about it so that there can be discussions about how other people work and how they function. That's never discussed in the workplace, and it's one of the things that really holds back the team of people that's working together. The other thing is priorities. And there's probably a third P that I'm not thinking of. I always tend to throw things together in threes, and if it comes to me, we'll bring it up another night. But priorities are so essential and very, very, very rarely established. So what do I mean by priorities? Priorities, if you look at the word comes from the Latin prior, which meant before, anything coming before, previous to, and so what priorities means is what happens first. If you're laying out priorities, you're saying what happens first, and then what happens next, and then what happens next, and what happens next. How do these things rank? Priorities are always changing, whereas this is the most important thing today. Tomorrow, all of a sudden, this thing popped up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, it takes precedence. It's previous to the other thing, so it takes priority. The priorities have to switch. But if there's just a whole list of things that need to get done, and no one determining what the priority is, and then voicing and putting it in words and putting it on paper what the priority is, It's not as much about the priority, because everybody has priorities. The problem is that everyone has different priorities. If it's not communicated, if the priorities are not communicated, then you can't assume that everyone has your idea of what the priority is, especially if you're the one running things, if you're the business owner, if you're the manager. You have to keep in mind, where is your list of priorities? Is it on the side of the wall? Are there 3 or more projects that you're working on right now, or that anybody is working on? And do they know which of those projects takes priority over the other? If you're having issues getting things done or feeling accomplished of any sort, I almost guarantee it's because there are always priorities. There's always, just like there's always expectations. But if you do not communicate and have everyone agreeing on what the priority is, then you're doomed for failure. And it happens over and over and over again. It happens very often. One of the most common things I see, because I'm oftentimes brought in by the business owner or the manager, the person running things, is that they are oftentimes the one that determines what the priority is, but they don't keep track. And so whatever the new thought of the day is, whatever the shiny object is, whatever the squirrel, that whole thing of just getting distracted, whatever the hot burning issue is in their mind, that takes priority now. And then they get back to the office and they say, well, whatever happened to this thing? And whatever happened to that thing? And they don't realize they've been setting priorities on top of those things. And no one challenges them because they're the boss. See, it goes both ways. Everyone's got to communicate. But it's important that management has to be clear of what priorities are. Make sure everyone's in agreement that this thing is going to take precedence over this thing. And so on and so on. It's simple. Such a simple organizational concept. Very rarely used, and it's one of the most common issues that tear offices, that tear teams of people apart over and over again, is because it's not that everyone doesn't want the same thing. It's not that everyone isn't interested in going in the same direction. Maybe they're not. That's another story. But if they are, the priorities are getting in the way. It's just a lack of priorities or a lack of communication about priorities. Hopefully that's helpful to you, kind of stirs some things up. And if not, hey, we'll be back here tomorrow and we'll talk about something else. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these things. If you completely disagree with me and don't think priorities are important, leave a comment down below. Hey, have a great day. We'll be back here tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and let the magic happen.